Haru Okumura, the daughter of the CEO of Big Bang Burger, the girl with the Big Bang forehead. And you know what else is Big Bang? Her damage. In this video, I will give you my final and honest review of Haru Okumura or Noir. So let's start off with her kit first. So her A0 is that her range attacks, which is her gun, is considered a psychic damage. Then when you use her skills, so it doesn't matter skill 1, skill 2 or skill 3, she will gain thoughtful round. Think of this as a bullet, and she can stack up to 3 of these thoughtful rounds, and each of those bullets or thoughtful rounds gives a different buff. So her skill 1, skill 2, skill 3 highlight also will give different buff to her gun. And some extra info here is that the more bullets you have, the bigger the damage. So up to 50% at 3 stacks of the bullet, and then at more than 2 thoughtful rounds or more than 2 bullets, increase her attack by 35%. Then once you shoot the gun, you will use up the thoughtful round. So her skill 1 is an AoE attack that can inflict target audience to both the main target and the other targets. They immediately change that target audience to herself for 3 turns, and then you'll gain 1 focus shot stack. So basically skill 1, just imagine, I know it's kind of like confusing that 1 target audience stack to opponent and to yourself. Just imagine it that you give target audience to yourself. Just keep the part that you give to the enemy because it's kind of confusing. Once you use skill 1, you get target audience, and then you get focus round. And this bullet is basically just a skill damage. A skill 2 is a single target gun skill that can do increased damage when you have target audience, which you get from skill 1. Then you also get this pain point round, similar to skill 1. This is also a buff to your gun, but it's only to the main target. So skill 2 is not really something you will use except for single target bosses, because even the buff itself is only buffing the main target, so it's only for single target. The skill 3 is also an AoE move that has a higher crit rate if you have target audience, and then you gain 1 spillover round, and this bullet also increases your damage. So skill 1 and skill 3 increases damage to the gun like as an AoE attack. Skill 2 only increases the gun damage on the main target, so there's a distinction there. A highlight is AoE, and you also gain a bullet called Overload round, and this bullet will increase the crit rate of your gun. And if Haru doesn't have any Overload round, it will increase the highlights damage. Her passive gives her attack and crit damage based on her element accuracy. So here's something actually some people, or maybe even many people don't know. Many people just think that it's an 150% element accuracy cap, but it's actually 239% accuracy cap, because 1.45 you times 165. But this cap is for attack only. So there's basically 2 caps to reach. 150% is for crit damage, 240% or 239% is attack. But usually you don't go for the higher one because there's no point going so high and then sacrificing your other stats. So you just go with the 150% element accuracy, so you can get up to 60% crit damage. The second passive is a permanent buff to herself every time she gets a bullet. So 1 bullet, you increase element accuracy by 18%, and also element resistance by 18%. Then when you get a second bullet, you increase attack and defense by 18%, and then if you get 3 bullets, you get 18% to your crit damage. So all of these are permanent buffs. Her A1 will activate her skill 1 when a new enemy arrives on the field. And based on the number of target audience stacks that Haru has, which is the thing that you get from her skill 1, increase attack and also crit rate. For A2, when she has more than 1 target audience, she will take less damage, and when she has 3 target audience, increase the psychic damage by 60%. For A4, the bullet that you get from the highlight will increase crit damage by 30% to your gun. So basically the buff to your gun gets a buff. Now for A6, this one is a pretty big one. When you have more than 2 bullets, you evolve Haru's gun to resonating shot, and then your gun will basically just do more damage, and you also get extra buff to the bullets. So for example, the focus round is the skill 1 bullet. You will decrease element resistance by 27% for 2 turns. Pain point round is the one from skill 2. This one is useless, unfortunately, because you're not really gonna use skill 2 for AoE bosses. But this one can give pierce rate, but again, only useful for a single target. Spillover round is a skill 3. This one is good because this will increase Haru's crit rate and crit damage by 20%. As for a card set, the best cards for her will be Wisdom and Pleasure, but it just increases her psychic damage and just damage in general. As for the stats, for the Moon card, you typically want to go for damage multiplier or an attack buff. So usually you kind of have to choose based on the substats. Like for example, this one, I have crit rate, crit multiplier, and accuracy. These are pretty good stats to have for her. For Star, I will recommend crit rate or crit multiplier. Honestly, I don't think element accuracy main stat here is useful. I don't think it's worth it. I will talk about it in the later section. Even if you don't hit 150% element accuracy, I still don't recommend using element accuracy main stat. I think it's a waste. Again, I'll talk about it later. Then for Sky, obviously attack. For the substat, definitely go for like element accuracy. If you haven't hit 150% yet. I might confuse you a bit, but main stat I don't recommend M1 accuracy, but substats I recommend M1 accuracy just to clarify things. And then other than M1 accuracy, prioritize the typical DPS stuff like crit rate, crit multiplier, hit rate, and some attack also. As for rotation for a standard 6-turn boss, it's typically skill 1 first, skill 3, gun, then repeat. Then somewhere in the middle, you have to use a highlight to get the bullet. However though, if you're doing like a DOD boss, the one that has a weakened turn, then you might wanna change things a little bit because of a 5-star weapon. Because a 5-star weapon gives an attack buff after gaining a bullet. In DOD, you don't want to go like a regular rotation. You want to delay using a skill 1 or skill 3 until right before you break the boss, so that you can get the attack buff during the 2 weakened turns. And you can imagine that if I use a skill 1 immediately on turn 1, then turn 2 I use a skill 3 to break, then on turn 3, which is the first turn of weakened state, you use another skill 1, you don't get any more bullets because you already used skill 1 on the first turn, so you don't get an attack buff. 34% is quite a decent buff, even higher buff if your Haru is a R6 weapon. It becomes like 61, almost double. Now for Haru's team, Haru's, I guess maybe best support and partner in crime is definitely Moko, because of her ability to give attack buff and element accuracy, because it makes Haru easier to build if you have Moko. I will give you some like comparisons in the later sections of the video, comparing 5-star weapon or not, Moko or not. Yeah, Moko is a good character to have with her. Then Core is also very good. Core is just good for every DPS. Navigator, obviously Futaba is going to be the best one. For Phoebe, if you have her, or Win is also pretty good. Now if you don't like Moko, you can also run someone like Leon. Leon is just a good, very good general buffer. And of course Cherish. Cherish is just good for most teams. And Marion also for sustain if you want. But again, Moko is the best one for element accuracy and attack buff. Wonders Dagger usually pretty much always all the time with a Haru team, Starry Compass, if a defense debuff, increase element accuracy, so this can also help you hit the cap required, which is 150% element accuracy. Then you increase circuit damage as well. And honestly, if you have a lot of joy medals, I do recommend you just get it to R5, not R6, R5. Because R6 is just an attack buff to Wonder, which is absolutely useless. Good rule of thumb is to always have like 800 joy medals, so that if a new dagger arrives, you can at least grab that. But if you have a lot lying around, don't know what to spend on, Starry Compass is the one. Now as for personas, very simple. Dionysus usually, or Dominion, Vishnu. A lot of personas can work with her. Dionysus for crit damage, crit rate, then Dominion for attack buff. Cohesion also, can also use Cohesion with her because she guns on turn 3. Court also uses a skill 3 on turn 3. Then you can use a Dominion Cohesion on turn 3 as well, so that you can buff a lot of damage. Then you have Vishnu for AoE debuff with her wings, with his wing swap. Then another one is Shiva. Shiva, I find him not always useful. In guild bosses, he is more useful. SOS not as good. And then at higher awareness Haru, Shiva becomes extra useless because Shiva is just only 1 turn. That's the biggest problem with him. If he's like 2 turns, he will be very good. 1 turn is just kinda bad, because that means your other turns will not get the buff. And then at higher awareness Haru, the crit rate is going to be high already, so this 12% is going to be useless. Cert and also Vishnu debuff defense more than 1 turn, so that's already better than Vishnu. And also the crit rate here, I already talked about this in the previous video. Crit rate is only 1 turn, same as defense. The Dionysus can buff crit for 3 turns. It's kind of weird to use Shiva now, but again Shiva is useful for guild bosses because of the points multiplier. Wonders damage gets multiplied for the points. Now it's time to talk about the strengths and weaknesses, the good and bad of Haru. I'm gonna start with the negative first. The biggest problem with Haru is that she is a bit more difficult to build, and she has quite a lot of requirements to really hit her maximum potential. The biggest one obviously is going to be 150% element accuracy, but ideally want at least 150% to max out her 60% crit damage. So it kind of depends on whether or not you have Moko, if you have 5-star weapon or not, Starry Compass, Dupe, and also even Navigator's element accuracy, because Navigator shares the stats to Haru as well, right? Some of you, I think, can just views the screen here and see like, oh no, 76.3%, I don't have enough element accuracy. No, do not do that, because there are some things that's not included in the stat screen. For example, Moko's buff, Haru's passive, and Navigator's element accuracy. Those things are not calculated on the stat screen. So what you should do is you go into battle, you apply the buffs, then you check Haru's element accuracy in battle on turn 2, after Haru uses a skill 1 or a skill 3, because her passive gives her an 18% element accuracy buff after she gets a bullet. If you have 150% accuracy there, then you're good. If not, you probably don't have a 5-star weapon, or Sawamoko, or just need more better cards, I guess. And it's not just the ammo accuracy that's a problem. There's also like a small problem for higher awareness Haru. So this is not something that all of you can relate. It becomes a problem for players that don't know what they're doing, because Haru's awareness buffs a crap ton of crit rate. At age 6, she can buff over 50% in rate, which is a lot. That haven't factored into like shock, or like rebellion, or the cards, or the navigators. This is not like a big problem because you can just easily remove cards or optimize things a bit, remove the rebellion, maybe use revolution instead, all that stuff, but it's something that people don't care about, I guess, which is fine. But as someone that's from a competitive guild, something that you have to remind people to check the crit. So I want to go back to ammo accuracy a little bit, because just now I said something about, if let's say you have like 100% ammo accuracy, okay, let's say 120 ammo accuracy, you still need 30% more. Do you use a card that has ammo accuracy as a main card? Personally, I don't think so, because you can kind of think of it like this. If you reach 150% ammo accuracy, you gain 20% crit damage, which is a decent amount, a good amount. But why not you just use a card, a main stat card that is crit multiplier instead? Why I say that? Because a crit multiplier card gives you 37.6% crit multiplier. So like, why would you use an element accuracy card to buff 20% crit damage when you can just straight away use a 37.6% crit multiplier card? Like, you know what I mean? But I want to clarify something, and it's about her passive, because increasing element accuracy also increases her attack, right? So if you use a 37.6% element accuracy card, you get like a 26% attack buff, 26% attack buff, and a 20% crit damage buff. Okay, I honestly don't know if that is better than a 37% crit multiplier card, but I still don't really think it's worth it. Might as well just do crit multiplier. But of course, by the end of the day, best case scenario is you have 150% element accuracy without the cards, so you don't have to bother thinking about this. Now I've talked a lot of like negative things about Haru. Now let's go to some positive. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't have that much positive things to say, because she's a DPS. She does good damage. She might be the best AoE DPS in the game, though if I'm being honest, I haven't fully tested her outside her own guild boss yet. But from her own guild boss, she just does a lot of damage. And the thing I like about her is her mechanics. I think she's a very interesting character to use, and it ties well with Persona 5 because she uses a gun, right? And I like how you can load bullets into a gun, then she shoots. Depending on the bullets that you load, you give different buffs. I think that's really cool. I think they executed this concept really well. So credits to Tagwing Studio for the character. One extra thing I want to talk about is Kira synergy, or Mesa synergy. This is something very cool because Mesa can buff gun damage and buff range attack. Okay, honestly, I'm not 100% sure if gun damage is considered as Haru's gun, or is it just range damage, range attacks. Because for A0, it says that range attacks is psychokinesis damage, so I have no idea if it counts as gun damage, or is it only just range attacks. I have no way of testing it because my Kira synergy is already rank 17. But yeah, if anybody knows, feel free to let me know because I'm kind of curious. If the gun damage and both gun damage and range attacks count towards Haru's gun. Another thing, I forgot to mention this one, but you do need Kira synergy rank 5 for Haru to actually work, because rank 5 will reload the bullet. Now it's time to talk about, do you need Sawamoko and Haru's 5-star weapon? Or is it okay to just keep them both? So I made a little table here to show the element accuracy needed, and from the navigator and the cards, to hit the 150% element accuracy cap with or without Sawamoko and Haru's 5-star weapon. So if you have both Sawamoko and 5-star weapon and Starry Compass, so Starry Compass is fine if you don't have R5. I think R0 is like 12%, even 12% is fine also, it's completely fine. But yeah, I just want to send us everything, putting R5. If you have Sawamoko and 5-star weapon of Haru, you don't need any requirements at all. You don't need to care about the cards. You definitely get 150% element accuracy in battle. If you don't have Sawamoko, you need 43.1% from the cards and navigator. If you don't have Haru's 5-star weapon, you need 20.5% element accuracy. If you don't have both, you need 79.1%. So to answer the question, do you need Sawamoko and Haru's 5-star weapon? Personally, I think Sawamoko is more of a bigger factor here because Sawamoko buffs 58.6% element accuracy. This is a huge number. So if you don't have Sawamoko, you can see that it's 43.1% you need. If it's the opposite, you have Sawamoko, but if you don't have 5-star weapon, it's only 20.5%, which you can possibly get using from the card substats and navigators. 43.1% is a big stretch. Very difficult to reach this number using the cards and navigator. So personally, I think Sawamoko is quite needed for Haru to reach the full potential. You can skip 5-star weapon if you are Sawamoko, but if you are both it's gonna be super easy. You don't even need to care about accuracy. And Sawa Moko herself is a pretty good character. She's not just a healer, she's also a buffer. Sustain is not that strong, but it's like a support for your DPS. Really good. Now onto the section of should you pull Haru Okumura. So 2 scenarios here I'll give you. The first one is a very general, like in a vacuum. Should you pull Haru in a vacuum, regardless of account? Personally, I think Haru is a good character. She's very strong, and she's gonna be like the only psychic damage healer for a long time. Even the Asian versions have no new psychic damage healers, so it's gonna be like 1 year plus before you get a new psychic damage healer. So it's gonna be a while before she gets power crap, at least for the same element. So for a general, in a vacuum, should you pull? I'll give this 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good value. Now the other scenario is if you have no strong AoE DPS, if you don't have Joker, you don't have like someone closer, Haru becomes very valuable because she's an AoE DPS, she does good damage, and she's also the only psychic damage healer for a long time. Then she becomes very valuable to pull. For the pull rate of this one, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Very recommended if you do not have strong AoE DPS. Now I usually don't do outros for my videos, but this time I will. Right now I'm not sure if I want to continue this series or not. Whether or not to continue like giving final reviews for characters that I've used for like a week or 2. If you guys enjoyed the video, do let me know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe to send signals to me that you guys actually want to see more of this. So if this video and the Cherish video do well, then I'll continue the series. This series is kind of dependent on you guys now. But yeah, anyways, see you in the next video.